Today, the Air Force honors the extraordinary heroism of Staff Sergeant Christopher Lewis. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is the Commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, Lieutenant General Brad Webb. We also want to recognize our distinguished guests in attendance today. Please hold your applause until the end. The spouse of today's officiant, Mrs. Donna Webb, representing the Honorable Matt Gates from Florida's 1st Congressional District, Mr. Bill Rohn. Command Chief, Air Force Special Operations Command, Chief Master Sergeant Greg Smith and his wife Tina. Air Force Special Operations Command, representative to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force Civic Leader Group, Mr. Tony Hughes and his wife Mia. Special Assistant to the Commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, Brigadier General Vincent Becklin. The Executive Director, Air Force Special Operations Command, Mr. Stephen Herrera. Former Command Chief, Air Force Special Operations Command, Chief Master Sergeant Wayne Norad, United States Air Force retired. Former Command Chief, Pacific Air Forces, Chief Master Sergeant Brooke McLean, United States Air Force retired. Former Command Chief, Air Force Special Operations Command, Chief Master Sergeant Bill Turner, United States Air Force retired. Commander, 24 Special Operations Wing, Colonel Mike Martin and his wife Cynthia. Vice Commander, 24 Special Operations Wing, Colonel Spence Kokenauer and his wife Amy. Command Chief, 24 Special Operations Wing, Chief Master Sergeant Jamie Clark. Commander, 1st Special Operations Wing, Colonel Tom Polinsky and his wife Jaren. Command Chief, 1st Special Operations Wing, Chief Master Sergeant David Wolf and his wife Danielle. Commander, 720th Special Tactics Group, Colonel Matt Allen. Chief Enlisted Manager, 720th Special Tactics Group, Chief Master Sergeant Jeff Gilmain. Commander, 1st Special Operations Mission Support Group, Colonel Gary Dorman. Chief Enlisted Manager, 1st Special Operations Mission Support Group, Chief Master Sergeant Robert Richardson. Commander, 1st Special Operations Medical Group, Colonel Shane Day. Congressional Aide to Congressman Matt Gates, Mr. Luke Ball. Honorary Commander, 24th Special Operations Wing, Mrs. Lisa Captain. And to all former AFSOC Commanders and Command Chiefs, Reserve and National Guard Commanders and Command Chiefs, AFSOC Directors, Wing, Group, and Squadron Commanders, Lieutenant Commanders, MAJCOM and Wing Command Chiefs, Chiefs, First Sergeants, friends, and colleagues, and the men and women of Team Hurlburt, thank you all for sharing this day with us. It is also my great honor to welcome members of our Gold Star families in attendance today. The memories of our fallen Special Tactics teammates are never forgotten. Moments of celebration, such as today, are always tempered by solemn remembrance of our Special Tactics brothers and their families who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our great nation. It is our honor to have in attendance today the wife of Technical Sergeant John Chapman, Ms. Valerie Nessel. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party, the playing of Ruffles and Flourishes, the playing of the national anthem, and invocation by Chaplain Hess.
Present the colors. Color! Tent up! Port arm! Port arm! Left about. Hunt! Color! Halt! Preset! Arm!
I invite those who would like to pray with me to please bow your head. Almighty God, thank you that your mercies are new every morning, and great is your faithfulness. Lord, our time on earth is like a vapor, and yet each day is precious. You use our family, our friends, our training, and the experiences of our daily life to shape us into the person, into the airmen we will be at a critical juncture in time. Today we give thanks for the bravery you endowed to Staff Sergeant Christopher Lewis that enabled him in that critical juncture of time to save lives on the battlefield, to unleash destruction on our nation's enemies, and to perform valiantly in a hellacious situation. Thank you for his parents, Steve and Liz, who prepared Chris for that day, and his extended family here to support and honor him. We also recognize that in battle, lives are lost. We give honor to our Gold Star families, and at the request of Staff Sergeant Lewis, we remember Chief Jason Finan. We ask that you continue to extend your powerful comfort to his bride and 2 daughters who miss his presence. Now, Lord, as the 2-3 STS nears stepping out again, please protect these men and women as they go into harm's way. When called upon, may they unleash violence upon our nation's enemies. Provide your comfort to their families during their separation, and show them their prayers are powerful and effective because you care for us. And I ask in Christ's name, amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Chaplain Hess, and thank you, Hurlburt Field Honor Guard, for your continued support of the 24th Special Operations Wing. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the home of Air Force Special Operations Command. Today we honor the remarkable actions of one Special Tactics operator, Staff Sergeant Christopher Lewis, for his courage while engaged in combat operations in Iraq. Equally important is the steadfast support his family has provided him throughout the years, and so they also deserve recognition for their deep devotion and continued service to our country. We are honored to have in attendance today the family of Staff Sergeant Lewis. We also welcome other friends and family members of our medal recipient in attendance today. I would now like to direct your attention to the empty chair in the front row of our distinguished visitor seating. This seat of honor is for our fallen teammates who are no longer with us. In their honor, we dedicate today's events. Please join me in a moment of silence for our fallen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the Commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, Lieutenant General Brad Webb.
Thanks, everybody. Good Florida afternoon. This temperature is a little bit more of what we're talking about, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the rundown of the Lewis family and friends. We have 57 members of Chris Lewis's family and friends in attendance today. Thanks so much for being here. As you would expect, I've done a ceremony or two in my time, and I can honestly say that I don't ever recall 57 members of a family being here. Right on that you were able to be here for this very, very special day. Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, community leaders, leadership here at Hurlburt Field, Air Commandos, Special Tactics Warriors, thanks for being here on a very, very special day. Family and friends, and I know we don't have a lot of military experience. We have some, but not much here. So I'm going to build a little bit of the watch here, but this is a big deal. If you hadn't figured that out yet, it's a big deal. The Silver Star is our nation's 3rd highest award given for valor and gallantry that our nation offers. The Congressional Medal of Honor, of course, in the Air Force's case, the Air Force Cross, the Silver Star. My dad earned a Silver Star, as some of you have heard me say before, for actions in Vietnam. And I remember sitting right there, kind of stage right as this happened in 1974 when he was awarded it. If you want to take pictures, if you want to get up and make sure you got the great angle, do so, okay? Please feel free to do so. To our community, it probably goes without saying, community leaders, yet again, we're reminded that heroes walk amongst us. Heroes like this young man sitting right there. You see him every day at the grocery stores. You see him at church. You see him at PTA meetings, et cetera, et cetera. And you know that. Just remember that. Today, we are offering the 43rd Silver Star for this command in the Special Tactics community since 9/11. Today, Chris will join other famous recipients, such as Chief Mike West. We just presented a Silver Star to him last month. But other notables such as Chuck Yeager, General George S. Patton, Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, the American sniper, Rambo. Rambo earned a Silver Star, who knew? Seriously, the golden age of special tactics continues on. Now, let me set the strategic scene for you, Mosul, because this is where this action takes place. Mosul, as you'll recall, in 2014, when ISIS started their march through Syria and into Iraq, Mosul is the second largest city in Iraq, and Mosul was viewed as the ISIS capital. It was captured by ISIS in June of 2014 and became the de facto capital, as I said. As we move into 2016 and as we move into the fall of 2016, the battle for Mosul was imminent. It was going to be the watershed moment in the fight against ISIS. In fact, the largest military force assembled since 2003 was being assembled there. 60,000 Iraqi military, 40,000 Peshmerga. Now, Peshmerga are the Kurd warrior class, if you will. They're kind of almost infamous in the circles of being very much warriors in the spirit for the Kurds. Very, very famous. So 60,000 Iraqi, 40,000 Peshmerga. It's a 60-nation international coalition that's going to take on this fight for the liberation of Mosul. Again, the second largest city in Iraq, the capital for the ISIS, clearly a city that needed to be taken. It would really break the back of ISIS, as we've seen here in the post-Mosul reflections. Now, Chris was assigned to a SEAL team, a team whose mission was to advise, assist, and accompany 300 Peshmerga fighters. Chris actually had only joined the team 2 weeks prior to the engagement. He was switching out with a special tactics teammate who had gone home for the birth of his child. So, Chris had limited time to earn the trust and the confidence of the SEALs, which frankly is step one in a special tactics operator's checklist, as they quite often join right in, whether it be an Army Special Forces or a Navy SEAL unit, are going to be latching in. Step one is the trust and confidence. 2 weeks. Because Soft Nation knows what they get when they see a scarlet, a maroon, a black, or a gray beret. And that is, they are going to inherit persistent adaptability. It's more than just a plug-and-play adaptability. It certainly is that. But what they know, the special tactics operator that they're getting on their mission is going to be able to adjust to the mission, regardless of what the mission is, and be a significant cog, if not the decisive cog. And certainly Chris Lewis was for this team. Chris knew that, unlike many fights, and of course this was far from his first deployment, this was going to be different. This was going to be an urban fight. It was going to be an unfamiliar terrain. I want you to picture, if you will, the suburban villages outside of Mosul. Again, a big city. But picture in your mind Black Hawk Down, Mogadishu. The cities in France that are being liberated in the Band of Brothers. Way City from Full Metal Jacket. You get the picture? ISIS has been in this city for over 2 years preparing for the inevitable assault. There's dug-in fighting positions. There's holes blown in the sides of buildings so that the enemy combatants can move up and down the line of houses without sustaining their concealment. There's an underground tunnel network connecting to everything. There's rubble everywhere. There's unexploded ordnance everywhere. There's hidden landmines everywhere. Every street is contested. Every building is unsafe. Now, the U.S. force that's attached with the Peshmerga are in an armored column of 100 vehicles, including tanks. When's the last time we talked about a special tactics formation going down the road with tanks? Think of a World War II battle. This is a major offensive force attacking a major defensive force. Now, Chris knew this was going to be a different fight. He didn't know how different. And he didn't know, of course, he probably assumed, that adaptability would be key. Thankfully, this is a fundamental ST trait. Now, special tactics is absolutely about air and ground connective tissue. But they have to be, ST has to be more than just about air and ground connectivity. They have to be adaptable. They have to be a multi-role player that ultimately wins the day. Chris had many roles this day, the 20th of October, 2016, and for 10 plus hours. Here's but a few of them. Chris ends up having to be a heavy machine gunner. Now, of course, the special tactics is usually attached to the team to be the interface with the aircraft. Chris's vehicle that he's in has one of these automatic 50 caliber machine guns on the top of the Humvee. It has a joystick that applies for remote operations of the gun, and of course it was an op. So Chris is manning the turret from the top, exposed to the enemy, to be able to bring the 50 cal to bear. And to bring the 50 cal to bear was absolutely called upon because they were under fire from almost the get-go. He was engaged on the enemy for 3 sides for many hours, simultaneously calling in airstrikes, multiple airstrikes, destroying multiple buildings containing enemy fighters while firing the 50 caliber machine gun. In fact, while there were many engagements, I'll highlight but a couple. He engages a high-speed VBED, vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. We have a language all our own in the military. VBED. Think monster truck. This is a Ford F-250 that is outfitted to be driven into whatever its target is and explode. This truck is barreling towards Chris and his teammates and Peshmerga fighters. The 50 cal is all it stands between him and that VBED going off. As it was, Chris is able to take out this monster truck 100 meters from the team, saving over 100 lives of his Peshmerga teammates and SEAL teams. A football field away. Immediately, Chris is confronted, and his team is confronted with facing concealed tunnel network from previously cleared buildings. Another role Chris has to play is that of medic. While they were maneuvering away from the tunnel, and you heard this addressed in the opening comments, Navy Explosive Ordnance EOD technician, Chief Petty Officer J.J. Finan, realizes the convoy is in the middle of a minefield. J.J. calls an all-stop to movement, saving everyone. And as they are backing out of the minefield, unfortunately, J.J.'s vehicle hits a landmine. And unfortunately, J.J. was mortally wounded. While most of the others escaped hazardous injury, J.J. was mortally wounded. Chris leaps from the turret, transits the minefield, administers first aid mere feet from the unexploded improvised explosive device, pulls 2 more wounded from the exploding vehicle, and starts medevac coordination. Chris hijacks a pickup and drives JJ to the medevac helicopter landing zone. Chief Petty Officer Finan laid down his life for his friends and teammates. And while I may be possibly speaking out of turn here, I think I'm on confident ground with saying Chris is accepting this award of the Silver Star with absolute foremost in his memory, the memory of J.J. Finan, along with the rest of his teammates. Chris also had a role as an air-ground connective tissue function throughout the battle. He called in multiple airstrikes on numerous enemy positions while manning the 50 caliber turret gun. 2 VBED, or monster truck, vehicles were stopped in all by Chris's efforts. The coordinated medevac evacuation, the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets that Chris was in charge of coordinating as this battle progresses. 10-hour-long fight from the beginning to the end with ISIS. Chris is the embodiment of a combat controller. He demonstrated the strategic value of special tactics and of air commandos, and that is the culture of persistent adaptability. This is the culture within ST, and it's a culture that I'm especially proud of as a head air commando. Adaptability, being able to think outside the box. This has been a mindset since our founding. It's get the job done with what you have. It's understanding that there is a way, we're going to find it. Air Commandos, I can tell you with assuredly, are already ready for the next war because we anticipate and adapt beforehand. We know where and how we are going to be the most effective. We display courage, tenacity, and wisdom. We don't seek challenges, we see opportunities. We find the way to adapt and overcome. The multi-role excellence of this young man, Chris Lewis, is an example to us all and exactly what we'll need for tomorrow's fight. So, a little bit about the reflections from this battle. What did October 2016 mean for us? It meant there was a toehold established in Mosul. The fall of Mosul was imminent. Villages were cleared, and Mosul was essentially overcome in the next few months. Chris and his team are officially acknowledged with killing 20 enemy. Doubtlessly, there were dozens more that were succumbed by the actions of this team. Chris directly saved 100 Peshmerga fighters and his SEAL teammates from the monster truck V-bed. The pathway to Mosul was opened, and I think maybe it's best summed up by a fellow SEAL who said, "We are here today because of Chris. He did it right." Chris showed what a determined and highly skilled air commando can deliver across multi-facets of battle. For the Lewis family and friends, Chris epitomizes what we all strive to be in this command. I am extremely proud of Chris, and I know you are too. Chris, let's award that Silver Star. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, General Webb. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the Silver Star to Staff Sergeant Christopher Lewis.
Attention to orders. To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress July 9th, 1918, has awarded the Silver Star to Staff Sergeant Christopher F. Lewis. Staff Sergeant Christopher F. Lewis distinguished himself by gallantry in connection with military operations against an opposing armed force as a joint terminal attack controller attached to a naval special warfare platoon near Mosul, Iraq on 20 October 2016. On that date, Sergeant Lewis's team escorted Kurdish Peshmerga forces beyond the forward line of troops in an effort to clear 2 villages held by an unknown number of Daesh fighters. Shortly after entering enemy-held territory, his element began receiving a high volume of effective fire, prompting Sergeant Lewis to call in for immediate close air support in what would become a violent 10-hour firefight. Attempting to break contact, his team took intense fire from enemy positions, at which time the automated 50 caliber turret system in Sergeant Lewis's vehicle became inoperable. While receiving a heavy volume of accurate rocket-propelled grenade, 81 millimeter mortar, and small arms fire, Sergeant Lewis selflessly exposed himself to grave danger in order to control airstrikes within 400 meters of his team's position, destroying 2 enemy fighting positions and an unknown number of enemy fighters maneuvering. Then, while manning a 50 caliber machine gun in an open turret, Sergeant Lewis again selflessly exposed himself to enemy fire to engage and destroy an onrushing vehicle-borne improvised explosive device within 150 meters of his position, driving at high speed directly towards his team and Peshmerga forces. Shortly thereafter, the enemy attempted to open another avenue of attack from a concealed tunnel at close range to Sergeant Lewis's team. Maneuvering from enemy fire, his team was halted after identifying multiple pressure plate improvised explosive devices on their withdrawal route. Then a series of improvised explosive devices detonated, destroying 1 vehicle and mortally wounding a United States service member. While still under fire, Sergeant Lewis dismounted his vehicle and risked his life to provide life-sustaining medical care to his injured teammate, who lay within 5 meters of an unexploded improvised explosive device. He then pulled 2 remaining teammates from the damaged vehicle who were confused from the blast, controlled a hasty medical evacuation, and facilitated airstrikes resulting in 20 enemies killed in action. By his gallantry and devotion to duty, Sergeant Lewis has reflected great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force.
Please be seated. Thank you, General Webb. On behalf of Lieutenant General Brad Webb and the men and women of Air Force Special Operations Command, thank you for attending today's ceremony. Following the departure of the official party, Staff Sergeant Seth Shadwick will lead the Special Tactics family and all interested guests in a set of memorial push-ups. This is a time-honored tradition within the Special Tactics community that allows us to remember our fallen teammates. This will be a great opportunity for all in attendance to join us in honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please stand for the playing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party. Push-ups will be conducted out that door to the left on the turf outside of the gym.
Squadron, stand put. Next exercise will be memorial push-ups. Memorial push-ups, do ya? Resisting exercise, move. Hey! Exercise, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2. 1, 2, 3. 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 6. 1, 2, 3. 7. 1, 2, 3. 8. 1, 2, 3. 9. 1, 2, and hold. 1 for teamwork. Down, up in. Teamwork. 1 for fallen comrades. Down, up in.